like to call the March 24th, 2026 Board of Property Maintenance and Appeals meeting to order. Zach, would you please call the roll?
Brian Ball.
Here.
Chad Christopher.
Here.
Katie Delozier.
Here.
Nathan Overholt.
Here.
Russ Metzer.
Yes.
Kathy Breckler.
Yes.
Steve Jefferson.
Mr. Vernon, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Great. All right, folks, if we would turn our attention to the meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes from December 4th, 2025. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, okay. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? They look very thorough to me. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes approved. All right. This evening we have two cases on the agenda. The general format, we will have our property maintenance testify about the case first. We will then give the owner, not yet, we'll give the owner an opportunity to talk about their property, and if relevant, we will allow for public comment. We will be limiting the public comment to not more than 4 minutes. We do ask everybody silence their cell phones, be respectful of each other, and if you have to come and go, please do it not disruptive. If you have not signed in, please sign in before you leave the meeting. Okay, we will proceed to the first case, which is 106 East Lamartine. Mr. Marvin?
I read the statement right.
Yes, please.
My name is Brian Marvin. My address is 40 Public Square, Mount Vernon. I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God under the penalty of perjury. Shall I begin? Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little background on the property first, you know where the city's coming from on this one. 106 East Lamartine is a property we've had some issues with over the last year since I started here with compliance to code. It resulted ultimately in the city having to clean the property once, resulting in a special assessment for the property owner. I tell you this only so you'll have a little background. Last October, the house endured a fire that burned up some of the interior of the home, and fire department, of course, responded and treated it properly accordingly. We are now, about 6 months since that date, and as of yet, there has been no damage mitigation, no improvements to the property, no repairs done, and a matter of fact, there's still boards and stuff laying in yard siding and such. So essentially nothing's been done since October. Our concern is, and we know that there's been no mitigation, property damage mitigation, because we have spoken with the company employed to do so and with the homeowner's insurance company who has verified that they've been having difficulty getting coordination with the property owner and getting things done, much like the city has had in the past. Our concern now is for the neighborhood and for the people that live around that property, in that this property is soaking wet inside. It has sat all winter long. The pictures are available if you want to see them. It has tended to be a bit of a hoarding situation inside, the best we can tell. So all that stuff is still in the house soaking wet. That's showing the history of the property, what we dealt with last summer there. Let him get a count up here on some pictures so you can see if you can get us to the burned out photos.
Just for the record, the photos from inside, how were those obtained?
Those are from the fire department themselves.
Okay.
So we did not, I'd never entered the home.
Okay. Just we wanna
Those ones, if you could roll back a little bit, you scroll by, that shows the outside of the home. This is the state it's in currently. Those boards were put up after the fire. The siding's still there. There's snow on the ground because they were taken in February, but in general, the porch is still cluttered. There's boards blocking holes in the fence. It's just, generally unsightly, but you can roll on forward from there.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so these are from the fire department, and these, like I said, the food items and everything, the best we can tell, all the things that were in the home are still in the home. And as we know, it does not take long before rats and rodents and insects and everything else find their way into a home, especially one that's not currently occupied by humans and has sat in this state. So what we're asking for here from the board is not that this house be demolished, but that we set some sort of a timeline on repairs for this home. This home is salvageable, at least it was. I can't speak to what's happened in it since October, but we would like to see a timeline set to have the repairs done so that the city and the neighbors and all do not deal with this house going on, to perpetuity into the future as they wrestle with what they want to do.
Is the house empty?
Yeah, it's been sitting empty since the fire. It's not habitatable. Habitable, thank you. She
No
can't.
squatters, no nothing.
Not that we can tell. I have no way to get in it. I drive by periodically. The boards have not been pulled free. I believe she's still getting mail there. I spoke with the mailman who said she still receives her mail there. She gets it from the front door. So she's been by it at least, and I see no indication that anyone's been in it. We had problems during the yard sale. I had to chase a couple individuals out of the yard who were trying to steal stuff out of the yard. So I know the people are aware it sits as it sits, but I don't see any signs that anyone's been in it.
So, what is your recommendation?
I recommend that the board set a timeline, whatever you guys see appropriate, in order to at least begin the repairs. I don't know what can be done necessarily by the insurance company and the mitigation crews to expedite, other than we can tell the owner that you have this much time to get work going on this. I would refer to the law director on what kind of recourse we have if that timeline is not met.
So, what I think we're saying is you were recommending condemnation for rehabilitation.
That is correct, yes. If I didn't say that correctly, yes, that's what I'm
It is
after.
not currently fit for human habitation, but it is repairable, and that the board would set a timeline for which repairs would be made.
What's the protocol like this last October? Why is it coming to us 5 months later?
Well, in the real world, we'd like to allow people time to do their own work. We like to see people take responsibility for their own work. And in a typical burned out situation like this, within 30 days or so, you would start seeing property mitigation. Someone would come in, take out all the wet materials, take down the wet side, and try to get things prepped for rebuild. It may take longer to rebuild, but you would see the initial work to protect the community. This hasn't happened in this case, and it's concerning to us only because, one, the neighbors shouldn't have to deal with this. Two, the history of the property tells me that this may be an ongoing situation that could carry well into the hot months. We do not want a soaking wet house rolling into 90 and 80-degree temperatures, because then we're going to have mold issues and rot issues and all kind of other things. So we've given the property owner almost 6 months to deal with this on their own. It hasn't happened. We've had indications in the past that we can't really expect it to happen. So we feel it's time now that the city step in and say, this needs to happen.
Have you had communication with the property owner?
I'll let Scott, she won't speak with me, she's not happy with me, but I'll let him,
Yeah.
he's had conversations, I'll let him.
Pardon me. Hi, Board. My name is Scott Zimmerman. My address is 40 Public Square. I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God, under the penalty of perjury. Yes, I have been in contact with Ms. Fisher numerous times. She has contacted the engineering department numerous times. We heard nothing for quite a while, and we heard nothing from her insurance company or her. Finally, she called wanting to get a permit for a pod to save that. to put that in the pod. I told her that, first of all, I would not be approving any permits for a pod because she still owes the city over $3,000 for the cleanup we did in the summer. She finally gave me her adjuster, which is State Farm, and I called them. They're covering her under the fire, but there's arguments going on between her and them, so she hired a private company, a private adjuster, public adjuster. So they have been going back and forth. I actually just got off the phone with ServPro of Licking County before I came into the hearing here. Talked to the lady that is in charge, that has been contracted about doing the mitigation to get it ready for demo and construction. She said they are still waiting because they cannot come to terms with the property owner, and they have not heard back from the other adjusters. The reason we're seeking this is because we want to put a timeline on to get something started on this property before it turns into something where we got to come back and tear it down because it's not salvageable. We're trying to actually do her a favor by getting a timeline on here so we can get the ball rolling and again get the things mitigated and get the damage repaired. So, like Brian said, we are requesting a order for repairs. We don't believe it needs to be tore down at this part. I actually was there the night of the fire. Chief took me in and I seen a lot of the damage. I think it's structurally, nothing really got into the exterior walls too bad. It was mainly inside. So the condemnation, we do not want a demo at this time. We would like for it to have a time frame set to where we could put them under the clock to get some things moving on this. So
if I can ask, what kind of time frame do you think is
I think it's more than reasonable that they at least start something and give us a plan of action. I would say at least start something, get a plan of action within 30 days, and then we would take reports every 30 days. I mean, we could give them, what, 180 days? I think up to 180 days, couldn't we, Rob? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not saying we have to, but that would be the longest I would give, and that 180 days is the repair's done and she's moved back in.
What happens after 180 days and nothing's done? What's the punishment?
Well, then,
Well, if the repairs have not been done, we can either, the most likely is to bring it back and ask for it to be condemned, because at that point, we're talking about almost a year from the time of the fire. And because of that, you'll have had everything wet sit there. You'll have rot, you'll have mold, you'll have insect and animal problems in the building. And I would suspect that it would be, we would be asking it to be condemned. We would likely seek a court order to allow us to inspect the property prior to bringing it back. But under the repairable, that's what we would need to do.
Yeah, so we would potentially, so in a motion, we'll see if, is the owner here tonight?
I do not see her. No.
Okay.
Can you speak a little bit more if you've talked with the insurance company a little bit, because I'm really not accustomed to this. It seems like we have several fires, and if they have insurance, immediately they're contacting the insurance company, they're contacting a board up program, and stuff's happening.
My understanding is, and it did get boarded up rather quickly. Pardon me. It was within a few days of the fire. The problem is, I think there are some issues with the owner, and she has some issues working with the insurance company and agreeing on things. When she's wanting to save things like this, it's not real reasonable. And the insurance company, since then, they're going to cover on the fire, but they've dropped her completely. I mean, they're covering the fire, but they're in the middle of arguments on what to save and what not to save, and I think she struggles with that a little bit. I think that was the snowball was kind of coming this summer when she had everything out into the yard, and we ended up having to get a nuisance, and then we cleaned it up, and that's why she owes the city $3,000 already, or a little bit more than
let me ask you this, Scott, why wait 180 days? Why not say, why not make a motion? Like for 90 days, and if she's gotta be at this point, the homeowner's gotta be at this point, if she's not at that point, then we come back, instead of waiting to this point where we have a bigger issue with the mold.
I am willing and able, and so is Mr. Marvin, to work with this board and whatever timelines you feel. We will institute those and try to enforce those to the best of our ability. I have no issues with that at all.
Scott, if I may, I could probably add
Yeah.
some clear delineation. So what I would propose happen, and I agree with you, 180 is too long. If a timeline is set and there's no forward progress, nothing we can see, I would go forward and try to obtain a search warrant. Can't guarantee I'd get it, but I can apply for one. We can go into the home at that point, evaluate the circumstance. If it looks like it's getting to the point of being non-salvageable, I would say we just move towards demolition. We just say it's getting too far gone and we take it down. But we'll need to see some progress.
I agree with you, like 90 days is enough to see some progress there, not only for the safety of the house, but the safety of the neighbors.
Absolutely, and we're in 90 days will put us into hot weather. We'll be in hot weather. So you figure this was October when this place was soaked down. We had a cold winter. A lot of it was frozen over the winter. The water's still there, and it's going to start heating up and warming up in that home with no AC and boarded up, and bad things are going to happen.
Myself, if I can, 30 days, I have no problem with, to see something started. I don't expect her to have it done in 30 days. But if we don't move soon, we're going to end up with a building that's not going to be worth or able to be salvaged. And that's in my opinion, she lacks some negotiating skills there or awareness. It just, to be honest, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be one, but I've dealt with her on and off since last June. And even the insurance companies, they was asking me if there was medical conditions involved because of the inability to negotiate and to realize that this needs cleaned out. And we have ServPro, they have ServPro waiting. All they got to do is get the approval. They're going to come in and get it cleaned up. So,
Mr. Braun, a question on authorities, right? What does the city code offer? We can offer.
Well, we're looking at codified ordinance 1303-12. It's a recommendation for condemnation, and that the building is being made safe by repairs. Can be ordered. Generally, you can order it. There are different time frames, but generally you could say that within 90 days the repairs must be started and on the way to completion. Otherwise, the board will take the property maintenance department will take other action.
Yeah, I think we need to be stern enough, because if you just say within 30 days it needs to be started, and then not, because what does just started mean, right? Did I take one shovel out, within 30 days? I mean, we need to be a little bit more stern with it.
Well, I don't know that we can. The question is, can we say 30 days? I think we can say they need to be
Within 90 days. it
within
needs to
90
be
days.
this
They
point.
need to be
If I may,
substantially
I would say the first thing we need to see happen, and the first show of good progress would be mitigation. ServPro or someone needs to be in that house and get all that wet materials out of there, suck all the moisture out of everything they can. I think we need to see that immediately. I agree with you. I think that would need to be within 30 days before warm weather gets here and it just gets out of hand, just as a suggestion.
Would you add to it, let's say 30 days progress gets started with an and in there, like, I don't know what ServPro does, like in 90 days, it has to be at this point, or we come back here, I think you need to come back here in 30 days.
I think we need to see damage mitigation in 30 days for sure. I think we need to have that place dried out, cleaned out. I understand the construction part is going to take a while. ServPro will probably do some of that by removing wet plaster and things out of the house. I don't know what the time frame would be nowadays to get a house rehabbed, but I agree we need to probably have set markers of progress. Perhaps we need to, I don't know if we have the legal authority to do so, but get an internal inspection on progress so we know as a city that things are being repaired, and maybe there not be a hard, fast rule of this much needs to be done in this much time, but that we do regular inspections and that we can verify that the house is being rebuilt at a timely fashion, and that we can expect it to be done and finished within a year's time.
What's the city ordinance on like something like this? Is it 90 days, 180? Like we'll run against
it
weather, but what's the city ordinance say about 30 days, Rob?
It generally says the general says that 90 days is sort of the cutoff point where they're either working on the repairs or you flip over to begin the condemnation for, to
So
have it.
we overstepping our bounds by saying 30 days?
You can add that the board is allowed to set interim goals within that, but the 90 days is basically where this board will need to be or they'll need to make a decision in 90 days about whether they're making progress or they're not.
So the enforceable could be 90 days, not 30 days. 30 days.
Well,
Okay,
We
so
could say
what-
both though, right?
What we're
We could-
saying, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
No, I'm
So we
offering you
could
the chance.
say that within 30 days, we wanted to see that, I'm sorry, what was the company's name?
Serpro, who they have right
Serpro.
now, yeah.
That would go in, we wanna see that within 30 days, but within 90 days, we need to see whatever else we decide is
It's-
appropriate in that, yes, some sort of move towards that or a plan towards that.
That's what I'm asking. Are we within the city ordinance by
Yes,
enforcing that
you
30-day
you can
mark?
ask the 30 days for mitigation, and then, 90 days, they must be that or the property maintenance appeals or the board of, the property maintenance enforcement officer may return to this board and ask for an order that the building be torn down.
Right, so before we take a motion, is there anyone else who would like to offer testimony on 106 East Lamartine Street?
Yes, I would. My name is Ross Wind, 200 West Gambier is my address. I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God under penalty of perjury.
And can you speak up a little bit? But
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
I was on-
heard everything.
I was there on that fire,
That's a lot better. Thank you.
and the amount of stuff that's in that house with the amount of water, I don't know how structurally sound it would be after things are removed. It sat that long with that much weight. I mean, it makes it very dangerous to even have a company go in there, walk around on that floor to see how sturdy it is. Not only that, with the mold, other things that'll be in the air in that environment would not make it safe. Cause the longer it sits, the worse the structure is gonna be for safety.
What's your position with the fire department?
I'm the Community Risk Reduction Inspector, educator for the city.
For example, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
We had a condemnation hearing last year, and it wasn't you, sir, but somebody from the fire department testified if this, I'm not talking about East Lansing, if this house would catch on fire, I'm not sending my fire people in there for their own safety. Would you say that's true for this?
That is
106 East
that is
Street?
100% true. That
So
would be
you
a
would not send them in there?
No, that would be a defensive fire attack. It's already burnt. Nothing's been changed to make it habitable. There's nothing
Explain that
worth
to me.
saving.
Explain that to me.
You can look at that picture right there. There's nothing in any of those photos that is worth any fireman's life to save burn up property.
Okay?
If there was something to save, we would save. But with it not being touched for over 6 months, the amount of water through the winter, it's unstable to send a fireman in on that floor and to
So
add
it's
more
called a
water.
defense fire.
Yes.
Okay, I wanna know what the term was. Thank
Yes, it'd be a defense fire. We'd stand on the outside, protect the structures near it, and let it burn till it's down to the ground.
you. To protect the neighbors.
Yes,
Thank you.
I have nothing. Anybody have any questions?
How long have you been a firefighter?
15 years.
And you just recently taken over the job as the community educator, right?
Yes, since January.
Very good,
I was 10 years at Danville and then the last 6 years here at the city.
very good. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. All right, well, seeing completion to testimony, I would entertain a motion from the board.
We just gotta figure out how to do this motion.
You have some options. You want me to go over those, or? we will.
Well, how are we gonna construct it? I think it's fair enough to say that we all want 30 days, we wanna have,
Mitigation.
mitigation started with, for instance, a company like ServPro to come in to start, exterior and the interior of the property, within 30 days. And then I think that they need to work with with property maintenance, on a monthly schedule, on the progress. To say even within 90 days that, that it needs to be,
Under
I think
construction.
Some
yeah,
show
under
of progress.
construction, and then we will reconvene
Something, yeah.
within 90 days.
Well, is that at that point, if they're not, the property maintenance enforcement officer and the city inspector can bring the property back to the board for an additional, it's already been condemned. At that point, the order would be to demolish the building because it's no longer fit for human habitation.
Right, yeah, and that'd be after that after
that
that 90
90
days,
days.
but if we're getting good progress, then it might be, it needs to be inhabited within 100,
Yeah.
180 day timeframe. So, however, we can
How do we
Okay.
word that?
let
Yeah.
me construct a
Okay,
motion out of that.
So are you making that motion?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
so the chief has made a motion that the property at 106 East Lambertine be condemned for rehabilitation with set points of cleaning the debris within 30 days and commencing full restoration within 90 days of the order. Is there a second? Okay, do I need to restate that? Can you wind the
If you
tape
could,
back?
that'd be great.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the condemnation for rehabilitation of 106 East Lambertine with a checkpoint of 30 days to remove the debris from the property inside and outside, and a checkpoint of 90 days to be under construction with full restoration.
Yeah, what the penalty is after 90 days.
No,
Stop
It just
it.
comes back.
The
to you,
code
right?
describes that.
Yeah. So, and who was second?
You seconded it.
I did.
Mr. Metzer seconded the motion. All right, amongst the board, do we have any discussion? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Brian Ball,
Yes.
Chad Christopher,
Yes.
Katie DeLozier,
Yes.
Nathan Overhaul,
Yes.
Russ Menser,
Yes.
Kathy Breckler.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. The house is condemned for rehabilitation. Right. Oh, the internet's going. All right, our next case. We don't have this listed by address, but it's essentially 10. Well, it's parcels number 66-05506.000, 66-03852.000, 66-03852.001. Mr. Marvin, would you like to present this case?
Am I still sworn in?
No, you gotta do it.
Okay, do it again, okay. My name is Brian Marvin, my address is 40 Public Square, Mount Vernon, Ohio. I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God, or under penalty of perjury. Okay, so this one, I had to do some catch up on, some of this is before my time, so I'll do my best. But it is my understanding that the city acquired those properties in 2022 from private ownership. Based on the research that I have read and documents I've been provided, in 2022, the buildings were in poor condition due to the lack of proper maintenance by the previous owners. They were acquired, as my understanding, as potentially being an area for the new municipal building. And that was the intended plan from the get-go, that those were to be torn down and that building put there. I'm not in the works of why things have been on hold or what's going on behind the scenes. That's just what I know. So what happened here recently is the windstorms caused some fascia, some cornice to come loose up on the corner of one of those buildings. Inspections were being done, and during the inspections, that cornice broke loose, and it was my original understanding it fell to the ground. It appears as though it fell into a netting that was put there to catch that stuff. Yes, right there. So all of these, you can still hear me okay?
Yep.
All of these bricks up in here are all loose. We were up in the attic, you can see light coming through. The brickwork, the masonry is all loose. Some of these bricks by the inspectors are, I guess, hand loose, they can be wiggled. I personally inspected the piece that fell down from there, and that thing weighs in the area, I'm gonna guess 50 to 60 pounds. There are some images I think maybe in there, I don't know if you look through there. It was an object laying on a table. It may not be. But the wood was rotten, dry rotted all the way through. There's no way it could support weight. Our concern now is also that the inspectors have indicated that the front fascia, the brickwork on the front, is also wedging loose. So not only do we have that several hundred pounds of wood cornice hanging up there, the brickwork on the front of the building is coming loose. That caused an immediate concern, obviously, because we have people, pedestrians, vehicles, and businesses out there we have to contend with, which is why we have scaffolding going up currently. So as a result of that, we went in, myself, fire, and some other people did an inspection of the building. I am in no way an engineer, but I am a rational man. We went down and kind of looked around the basement, and hopefully there's some images. The concerns I saw down in the basement is over the decades, bricks and stones, it's a stone basement wall situation. Water has been running into that basement for I don't know how long, but there's a very clear water path. And let me clarify, we only looked at 5506 as our primary inspection, parcel 5506. There was paths of water coming down the wall into the basement, running across the basement floor. There's mortar missing between the stones. The earth is washing away literally underneath the foundational walls under there. Over the years, people have shored up the foundation with stacks of cinder blocks and other blocks they have found. The floor joists have been shimmed with wood shims. They have replaced brickwork in areas where you'll have stone missing, and someone has reinserted brickwork, red brick or something into here. So essentially what I'm saying is over the years, there are very visible repairs, which to me, being a layman, I would say are not of the quality you need to hold a building up of that size. Putting cinder blocks under a beam is not sufficient right there to hold a building of that weight. And the concern now is with me is those walls are disintegrating down below. The woodwork is obviously requiring to be shored up. Those are loose rocks along the walls. So the basement to me is a grave concern as a building, being a layman. Watching that building fall would be a horrible thing. More cinder blocks holding up an area of the basement floor. You can see how they're just kind of balanced on a board on the edge of something and then holding up a portion of the floor down there.
Should that actually be?
It would be upright, yeah, I'm sorry, it's a sideward picture, but what you're looking at is the part to your right is below and the part up is I'm sorry, reverse that. The stones down are below and the woodwork is up top under the beam. So you see that plywood piece under a beam there. Not only that, I mean, there's substandard wiring down there, there's exposed wires, there's wires just hanging from the ceiling with no end caps on them, no wire caps or anything. You got ancient plumbing, that's, I'm guessing, a form of mildew or mold that's created in a corner where water's just been pouring in from the street side. Essentially, that place to me is a death trap, in my opinion. So that is a grave concern there. But then as we went upstairs to kind of look at the living areas, I'm not gonna lie, the midsection is not overly alarming just to look at it. I mean, there were some old apartments in there. I've seen people living in very similar situations around Mount Vernon, not whether that be good or bad. But as you get up, there's right there, if you go back one picture, that's the cornice piece that fell off right there, that big chunk of wood. That's what I was talking, weighs about 60 pounds. There's several more of those hanging up there right now. we went up to the attic and tried to look around, and there are holes in the plaster where you can physically see light coming through the wall, meaning that all of the mortar there is gone. That's just a chunk of the cornice piece that fell. There are dead birds laying on the floor with maggots literally drying on the floor around them. There has fire department's here, and he can testify later, but he pointed out there had once been a fire up there, that there's charred wood up in the attic. In general, that's the stairwell on the back. I can't believe a human being has been walking on there. There's holes all the way through the floor. The welds are all rusted free. I went down them and felt very much at risk. Yeah, okay, that was over one of the attic windows going up into the ceiling. You can't really see how far it went or how much damage, but you can definitely see charred wood up in there. And essentially, again, not being an engineer, this building is as dangerous probably as any we have condemned since I've been here, which only been a few. But my understanding is, and I realize there's historic value here, so I'm just speaking objectively about what I saw. I'm not concerning that part of it. My understanding is that these buildings, based on the report I've read that was provided to me, that these buildings are kind of all potentially interwoven. And if one comes down, they're all coming down. So if you pull the support of one wall away, the one next to it can come down. The only exception may be the cinder block one behind here, which, you know, is aesthetically not as important, I think, as the others. But the end of the buildings on I'm trying to think the parcel numbers, 001 of the two that match and 000 of the two that match are also kind of woven together at the end of the building. So when they built the newest piece of that, it's kind of built as part of the other building. So if you're tearing down the other two, you know, that one, I don't know what the interior is like. There was some methamphetamine issue or something at one time in one of the buildings, so I didn't go too far into them. But they're all three should just be torn down at one time just to save hazard and collapse of the others. That's about what I know.
Great.
Please swear in again,
Yes, sir.
since it's a new case.
My name is Ross Wind, address is 200 West Gambier Street. I affirm my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and abilities, so help me God, under penalty of perjury. Not being a structural engineer, but going through that building, the stability is not there. The parapet wall and/or party walls that connect the two buildings are leaning. You can see cracks in where they're getting ready to fall. So if one building goes, the other goes. You have windows that are skewed to almost a 45-degree angle from being straight in the block that connects the two buildings together. There are several sections across the top that are falling. That facade brick wall that's on the front isn't even the bad brick that's on the inside. So the white brick that you see from the streets is a temporary cover that was over the original brick, which you can see in the one photo. It's red brick behind the white. That is the structural foundation. And from a firefighter perspective, the corner of any building is the most structurally sound section. That's where we park our trucks. That's where we set up our command post. That's the strongest section to where you won't have a collapse. The issue with that is that's where sections of that building are starting to fall. On the second story in this first couple of photos here, you can see from the inside where you can see to the outside.
Where you want us to go forward or back?
Go up, go backwards, yes. So, all right, go down to that photo there. So that red brick that's there to the right, where that section had fallen, that is your actual structure wall. That's the wall that's actually the building. The outside part wall is just a facade to make it look better, which makes it more dangerous. That gives it more of an ability to fall before the actual building falls itself.
Was there water going between the white facade brick and the red brick?
There can be now, especially since that has been opened up. Standing from the ground looking up along that sill, you could see water ripples in the sun where it's holding water up there and it's not draining properly like it should. The foundation is horrible down in the basement. There are several areas where they have rocks stacked on rocks on the bricks holding up center sections of the building. when you walking down in there, it is not very, you don't feel safe. You can literally see in the dirt where it looks like it's trailed water through from the rain, and where they've closed sections off to the streets. So it used to go into the basement, which caused a lot of wood rot to that area. You can see evident fire damage in the one photo in the upper dormer there, unknown how far that damage went, and there was a fire, and how much is damaged, so that dormer right,
Go back to the dormer.
that one more, yep, that dormer section right there is where that fire was burnt in that room. So in that far corner there is where you can see out the building where that had fallen. It's later down, if you go down in the photos, you'll see that picture. Along with the dead animals and the mold is just completely non-sanitary. So with that, just like the other building, I would not send another firefighter in there to fight a fire. There's nothing inside that building we're saving.
Did I hear you say it'd be a defense fire?
Yes, it would be a defensive fire. I'd be concerned if a vehicle went off the roadway and struck that building that it would fall. That whole area is a potential area for collapse. It's right off the square. It's in a heavy commercial area. It makes it dangerous for the public.
Actually, we're working to get the current resident out of there. As soon as that's done, this building is a commercial, a business building, so it does fall under the Ohio Fire Code, for my authority. And as soon as that person is out of there, I will be putting what's a placard on this building. That's the double red X that, means that we do, as a fire department, we will not go inside. It will only be outside structural firefighting.
Tenants in there now?
There is one in there, but we're getting him out as soon as possible.
Is there a time frame on that?
That you spoke with him
Yeah.
today?
He's looking at rentals tomorrow.
Yeah, we've been negotiating with him since last week to get him out as quickly as possible.
What happened, like, we bought the building in 2022, was there a home inspection then? And all this came from the wind damage?
Not all, I would not say all of it came from the wind damage, but the wind damage in that storm did increase a lot of more safety issues. Now that that is opened up to the environment, the longer it sits, the worse it's gonna get. It was already, yes, it was already damaged from the inside, but now that it's open, it's just gonna continue to get worse.
Well, why were you just hearing about the, how bad this building is after 3 years?
In a previous, it hasn't been just now. In a previous evaluation, cities paid for other reports, and in the previous reports, it has shown the same damage. It's shown that, as a matter of fact, your question about water going between the brick, it was determined that the water flow was obstructed and it is going between the bricks, and that the freezing and thawing effect of that with deterioration of brick is causing that facade to come free. So this isn't like it just happened. I know there might be a misconception that the windstorm brought all this to light, but that is no way the case. This was clearly, they were bought in 2022, knowing full well that they were already in bad shape. There has been, I believe it was 2025 last year, but there was another evaluation done showing that, you know, this damage had existed. It's long-term damage, like the brickwork and stuff like that. Like I said, the city didn't buy these, as my understanding, with the anticipation they were gonna be saved. They were already in bad shape. The bricks down in the basement and all that stuff was done before the city got it. So all of this has been going on long before the city acquired it. What happened is an act of nature. Like this windstorm, as we all know, was immense. This was much more than any of us anticipated having. And that amount of wind, I think what actually happened here is brought a situation to light that really needs addressed. If we were to have that wind again, even with the scaffolding and stuff in place, I would be horrified to see what might happen if that whole facade was to come free and fall forward. So,
Is
just,
the first time this building's came to this committee?
that I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, yes then.
And what's scaffolding there for? It's just.
It's a
protect
safety
there, there's no
scaffolding.
work being done.
If bricks were to fall out and stuff, it's there to help catch bricks.
So it's not to set up, there's no curb work.
No one's gonna be repairing that front end, no, it's there is my understanding, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but those are there so that if bricks come loose, like I said, you can literally tap the bricks and move them. If the wind were to blow a brick free or something, it'll fall to the scaffolding rather than to the ground below.
And there'll be netting with the scaffolding.
Yeah, safety netting will be there. I'm sorry, Scott.
No, you're fine. My name is Scott Zimmerman. My address is 40 Public Square. I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God under penalty of perjury. I can't really add a whole lot more than what these gentlemen's already shared. I do know that I spoke with Mr. Henkel. There were some repairs made to that area to try to stop the water and coming in, I think it was a couple years ago, if I can remember correctly. I'm glad this picture's up. You can actually see how far that has moved from the wall. That's how far that's moved. And my concern is that I'll give you a little bit of history. If we remember the Growy building, half a block up, it ended up out probably close to the center of the road when that front of that building came off. And this is what we're trying to avoid. That's why engineering acted quickly and got the scaffolding up and got some safety measures put into place, because this is my opinion, and like everyone else said, I'm not an engineer, but I can see things when they don't look right and they're dangerous. So I would just ask the board to make a clear and informed decision. So
What's your recommendation, Scott?
I believe the building should be taken down.
I didn't hear you.
I believe the building should be condemned and demoed.
Previous, like it should be fixed.
I think we're beyond fixing. I really do. This maybe 20 years ago. If you see a lot of the buildings down Main Street, they have great big metal sides. They're actually decorative. Those are actually holding the corners together. Those was put in probably 2 or 3 decades ago. And this building wasn't done. The Growy building wasn't done either. I actually worked at Growy's, and then I was with the Parks Department when that building come down. That was actually my apartment at one time. But it just happened during a rain. It was just a rainy day, and it come down and ended up in the road. So I don't want to take a chance on someone being harmed. So.
Thank you. All right. You want to say more?
No, I was gonna say, I don't know if you needed my official recommendation.
You're welcome
Since I
to
brought
make
the
an
whole mess,
official
but-
recommendation.
But, yeah, I agree with Scott. I understand the desire to rehab things, but with anything, cars, houses, anything, there comes a point where things are not salvaged, not economically feasible or practical to try to save them. We are definitely here on this building, and it would be my recommendation to be condemned for destruction.
Thank you.
I would note that there are documents in the packet where the city spent about $8,000 or $9,000 working on the roof to try and prevent the water infiltration back right after we acquired the building.
Mayor Starr, would you like to provide testimony as the representative of the owner?
My name is Matt Starr. My address is 236 South Main Street, Mount Vernon, Ohio. I affirm that the testimony is truthful, that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God, or under penalty of perjury. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and members of the community, let me begin by acknowledging something very important. Historic preservation matters. It's very important to us. It connects us to who we are, and it tells the story of Mount Vernon. And it also reminds us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. But preservation is not the same thing as preservation at any cost. And that's really the decision that we have before us today. The buildings in question, including the Curtis building, have simply not aged. They've deteriorated over decades, and to the point where they're no longer safe, no longer functional, no longer viable. According to the city's formal inspection and recommendation to condemn, these structures are unfit for human occupancy and present a public safety risk. And we're not talking about cosmetic issues here. We're talking about structural instability. We're talking also about water intrusion and foundation failure, rotting wood and compromised supports, failing windows, falling debris, and collapsing materials. In fact, we've seen windows fall from the building and narrowly providing an injury to pedestrians. So let me say this plainly, that we're one incident away from someone getting hurt, and that changes the conversation from preservation to liability. Now, I understand that there are calls for an additional study, specifically to bring in a structural engineer to take a look at this and provide an official opinion. But I want to be very clear. We already have extensive inspection on this. Documentation, we have professional assessment that tells us what we need to know. So spending additional tax dollars at this stage doesn't change the outcome. All it's going to do is delay it. And worse, it continues to expose the public to risk. And that is not stewardship. That's hesitation. Let's also remember how we got here. These properties were purchased by the city, as Mr. Marvin said, in 2022, and that was following a unanimous city council vote with clear and our intention that we had plans to use this property over here for a justice center, for a courthouse, extended courthouse, and under the information that we had at the time, that's why we purchased these buildings. Because these buildings had already reached the point where restoration really was no longer realistic. And so it's been stated, and I think it's very important, that the time to restore the buildings isn't today. It was decades ago. We can't undo years of neglect with good intentions today, especially when the cost would be extraordinary and the result would be uncertain at best. And there's also an argument being made that this demolition, or this condemnation and eventual demolition, would somehow erase our history. And I respectfully disagree about that. Because history is not a building alone. History is a people, it's leadership, it's legacy. Henry B. Curtis's legacy, our first mayor, deserves to be honored. But tying that legacy to a structure that is unsafe and failing does not elevate his story. It diminishes it. We have better options. We can provide interpretive signage. We can do public art incorporating salvaged materials. We can have naming elements of future facilities in his honor. These approaches preserve meaning without preserving danger. Look, we need to be inspired by our history, not trapped by it. And then finally, I just want to speak to the broader responsibility that we carry, that blight is not neutral. When we allow unsafe, deteriorating structures to stand, we discourage investment. We depress surrounding property values. We send the wrong signal about the future of our community here. Good stewardship means making hard decisions, not just the popular ones. So approving a condemnation and eventual demolition isn't a rejection of our past. It's a commitment to our future. And that's a future where public safety comes first. Taxpayer dollars are used responsibly, and our downtown continues to grow, invest, and thrive. And I know this is not necessarily an easy decision, but it's a necessary one, and I urge you to consider everything that you've heard today. And again, this is part of the historic district as well, and so right now it is not adding any value at all to the historic district. In fact, I think it's taking away from it greatly. So we shouldn't be putting off what we know needs to be happening. So, any questions for me? Yes, sir.
If the committee votes to condemn this building and demolish, what happens? It's just poof, grass?
Well, we have to go through procedures and sort of.
And what do you visualize to be there?
Well, I'm going to meet with this guy first, and this guy first, as well as our safety service director, and we'll get the plan together to start taking action. We'll keep Mr. Mel is here. I think he's our public buildings chair for city council, and our finance chair is here. So we will be bringing in those two members of city.
Wasn't the intention when we bought it to make a justice center? Is that still in the works?
That well, if we can afford to do that, but at the same time, you know, we're weighing our options because we're taking on a lot of debt. And so we're taking a look to see what we can afford. Ideally, if we had an unlimited budget, yeah, we'll put the Taj Mahal here, but that's not realistic, so.
What are the citizens looking for, a Texas Roadhouse here? If you watch Facebook.
Yeah, that's what they want, yeah.
I'm just
Anyway, no.
saying, I'm just saying.
Not
It's
enough
just,
parking.
yeah, I think, but I think we can all agree that the current state is not serving any purpose at all, and, it's time, yeah. Any other questions from the board?
I don't think so. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
We're just trying to get Facebook comments wrapped up. All right. Again, we do have to be respectful of time for folks here, because majority of this group is volunteers. We will accept public comment at this time. If anyone would like to come and swear in and make a statement, it is open. Give them some time.
So I need to read my name into this, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
So my name is Stacy Varner, and I'm at 306 East Gambier Street in a historic home. And I affirm that my testimony is truthful and to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God, under the penalty of perjury. So, my understanding is everyone that has spoken here from a technical perspective is not a structural engineer. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we've had feelings as we walk through, which is not technical structural engineer. Have I heard in the past, though, years past, we've had structural engineer evaluations of these buildings yet?
When you say these buildings, you're talking about buildings that are brought before this board?
The ones that we're talking about here to the north of this building.
No, we have not.
So we're talking about money, and have we crunched numbers? So there's a cost to tearing the buildings down. There's a cost to rebuilding something new. If you add those two and compare that to potentially fixing this, and we can't say it's not fixable until we have a structural engineering evaluation to say it's not fixable.
Well,
So
the structural engineer is not the person that's going to fix it.
no, but they're gonna tell you whether it's fixable and give you analytics on money as to how much it's gonna cost to fix it if it is fixable. Shouldn't we crunch that information and do those analytics before there's a decision to tear it down? Is the question.
Well, if you look in the packet, there is, the city did have mid-state, construction. They rehabilitated the courthouse. They've done several local projects. There's a statement from them. You know, their verbal opinion was it is cheaper to tear it down and build a replica than to try to restore it by at least half price.
And did that come from a structural engineer or just a company with some?
It's a company that does this type of restoration every single day of the week. They did the county courthouse restoration.
So do we have numbers that we can at least throw around and talk about?
Well, it's just
Are there
not-
numbers in that packet?
No, there are not. It's
So
an
we're
order of
kind of-
magnitude.
so we're
They're
focused-
saying that
We're
restoring
going
the
down a
building
blind
would cost.
street right here, right now, without that type of analytics, is what I'm saying.
They're saying it would cost double to restore it as to rebuild a replica. Those are numbers. Continue.
Well, those are the questions I wanted to throw out,
Mhm.
because I didn't hear that type of analytical things going on today. And it doesn't sound like it's gone in, that we have nothing on file, you said, in the past 3 or 4 years since we've purchased the buildings. So, that was what I was wanting to bring up before the board and for people to think about.
Thank you.
Sir,
Anyone
can I
else?
ask you, what's your recommendation? I'm just curious. If you had to make a recommendation, what would you like to see?
I'd like to see detailed dollar and numbers, not just it's gonna be double. To me, that's a very general statement. And if this company that you're talking about that's given that information does this all the time, one of the things that should come in a packet is detailed dollars.
Do we have anyone else who would like to speak?
My name is Marcia Adams. My address is 1105 Martinsburg Road, Mount Vernon, and I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God under the penalty of perjury. I am very upset that you want to tear this down without getting numbers like Stacy just mentioned. And I've had multiple people say that they feel that the city owning this with the city board making the decision is a conflict of interest. And that you obviously had to have an inspection done before when you bought it. And Brian, you had told me that, or you told Vicki and I, that that is the one building that you would like to see saved. And I would like to know why there aren't more guidelines for historic preservation in our historic downtown. And maybe this is something for city council, but to write some type of legislation that would require people who are in downtown, like this building, have it routinely inspected by somebody to go in and make sure that it is structurally sound. I mean, we have people living in the upstairs. There's businesses downstairs. So anybody could have anything done to a building, and safe or unsafe, and you'd never know, because nobody goes in to look at them. And I just feel like there needs to be some kind of rules to go by, that we have, you know, if you're gonna have a building downtown, it's a historic building in a historic district, then you need to have a inspection by the city engineer, fire department, to go in once every however many years and look it over and make sure that it is indeed sound, and that the wiring's good, the plumbing's good, and that the basement walls aren't caving in. And that building should never have been allowed to get to the point where it is. And yes, I agree that it didn't happen in the last 4 years, but the people that have owned it before could have put a few thousand in it every year and done a little bit over the years, and they didn't. And they were never held their feet to the fire to make sure that it was done. So, I'm just.
So, part of the debate, the county commissioners had a debate about building codes. We would ride on their leadership to have those building codes. We, I believe, encourage that. It is in our disaster response plan with the local Knox County Emergency Management, that at some point the city probably should have building codes because of things like this. It is also my favorite building of the three buildings. I think it's very iconic. I think I have a lot of respect for the Curtis family. I actually met with them today. But I took that picture. I was in the bucket truck. The wood, you can literally squeeze water out of it. I mean, Lacey Blankenhorn and I have taken historic preservation training because part of our role is to advise the Historic Preservation Commission. We took, training from the federal government on this. I think you were in the class, your folks were in the class too. But it's difficult. The wood is damaged, the grout is damaged, the roofing is damaged, the foundation is damaged. We, as the city, knowing there was a high risk that these would have to be demolished, we have, your time's up, by the way. Now that I'm taking some, you get some more back. You know, we did, invest in a three-dimensional scan. We hired a specialty company that, they have a local guy that we scanned the buildings with high resolution scanning photography. We've paid a Kenyan person to do a photo shoot. We have documented every aspect of this building to the point we can literally upload it to Google Earth and it can exist in the cloud forever. We have the ability, as we look at, I think for the folks that attend the public meetings about the future of the Justice Center and the different buildings, our architects with DLZ and MKC that have done consulting on what should be built there have the idea of salvaging pieces of this and recreating a facial replica of the building on a commercially acceptable up-to-code structure. So that's something we've taken very seriously as we did our, Tanner led our listening tour on the future of these buildings, of all the city infrastructure, and we do want this future building to be iconic, representative, respectful. We can save pieces of this, but I think it's, we did not realize until these pieces came off the extent of the damage. We did not realize it had fire damage. There's a lot of things we've learned in the last, I look at the chief the last few days. I look at Nate from the health department. We've learned a lot recently with this storm. Well, the intent was to eventually demolish the building. I don't think that intent was ever different.
And you had asked me before why it was cement block on the south side of the building. It's because there used to be a building attached to that. It was a laundromat or cleaners. They did 2-hour martinizing. So, but when they tore that one down to build this one, they left the Curtis building standing and then put the cement block on the outside. So, I'm just very disappointed with the whole process, and I feel helpless, and if I was a gazillionaire, we wouldn't be having the discussion.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? Again, Mr. Brinkman, would you step forward? I have a question for you.
Daniel Brinkman, address is 500 East Chestnut Street, Mount Vernon. I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God, or under penalty of perjury.
As the auditor of the city, have you received any donation toward the preservation or operation of these 3 buildings?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you. Okay.
Citizen asked, why don't we do inspection? My understanding, fire department does do inspections every year.
We do fire safety inspections. We
Tell
do
me the
not do
difference.
anything structurally. What we do is we'll go in and make sure that your fire extinguishers are serviced, your emergency lighting is serviced. We're just doing what is in the fire code of fire hazards. We do not go in and do any structural type of inspections on that aspect.
What's the difference between a yearly inspection, like you just described, and like this gentleman's gonna tell you, I'm gonna do a defense fire?
Mhm.
Tell me the difference. Like, if, let's say I owned this building, and I had the dry cleaners here, you came in as a fire chief, you're just seeing if I got my what in line versus coming and saying it's a defense fire.
Well, we will make recommendations if it's in disrepair. There's 3 things that we do in the fire services: a risk analysis of structure. We will risk a lot to save a lot. If there's a life in there or the building is salvageable, we will risk a lot to save a lot. we will risk little to save what's already lost, or if there is something to save. We will risk nothing with whatever is, what is already lost, building or life to go in there. This building, there's nothing, we would risk little, we would risk nothing, of our lives, or if there was homeless or whatever in there that we don't know, we would not go into this structure. And that's just,
Until the
that's
tenant's
just,
removed.
until this tenant is removed. If we know that if somebody's in there, you know, we will risk little to go in there. But if we know everybody's out, we will risk nothing, not our lives, for this building, because this building is beyond a repair, in our opinion. And I'll go, I'm all about repairing these older buildings. I see Mr. Mazza is in our audience there, and it's what he has done with the old middle school. That took on a lot of stuff, and I think I was one of the biggest supporters of that, because they wanted that building to come down quite a bit. But I do think there's a big difference between that building and this building. When I look at the foundation and I look at the overall structure of this building, if you walk around that building, Mr. Sir's right, I'm not a structural engineer, but when you walk around that building, you look up at the parapet wall, you can see how many times that's been repaired already. You can see bricks that are leaning. If you look on the back side of the structure, look at the one lintel on the window. It's virtually at a 45. That's showing you that building is under stress without any fire damage or a fire happening into it. On the back side of the building, there's bricks that are coming loose. A lot of these older buildings are made of the bricks and the mortar that is washes away very easily with water. So I can't imagine what's behind this fascia if there has been water that is intruded into this building. The actual, because I look at this is called what's ordinary construction. Brick on the outside, wood timber on the inside. Your beams are probably what's called fire cut, and everything in there. And if you just walk around this building and look at structural disarray of this building, and then walk in and then go down and look at the basement, I think you would all agree that it wouldn't take a structural engineer to know that this building is not very safe. And with this building being close to the roadway, and summer's coming up, we will have a lot of patrons using our sidewalk. Not alone the traffic that goes up and down Chestnut Street, and a little bit of seismic activity is making these buildings move, as well. This building's not in a very good location for any of that in the state that it is in. So with that said, I think it's important that we do save our historical buildings. I do, but I think we can do it in other ways, but this one poses way too much of a life risk.
And the big thing I wanted to share with everybody with our yearly inspections, or anytime we get called that somebody has a concern, we cannot enter residential structures. So any renter that lives upstairs, we can't go through their house. We can't check their apartment. We can't control what they do inside there. We can only do the business. Like they showed or said in the photos, that first floor where the business was isn't hard to the eyes. You can still walk in there and see that it was a clock shop. That's what gets inspected. Not the basement, not the attic, not the dormers, not the construction. It's the fire safety. But anything residential, we cannot touch per the Ohio Fire Code.
How many years back have you went through inspections on all these commercial buildings?
That I have not gone through yet. I have just started this year, and I've pretty much lapped the roundabout this year, and I'm working my way through. Being new in this position, I've got 46 fire safety inspections done since January. So I'm working on getting the rest of
Our city
commercial
did not have a
properties.
very good fire inspection program for
We
quite
did
some
not?
time. We did not for quite some time, until about 2011 or so. Then we started getting into our businesses with inspections, and since then, we've ramped it up, every year. We've actually added Ross as another person into our fire code, our Community Risk Reduction Bureau.
Because
to get
her,
back
her,
in.
her comment was valid, like, why have we done inspections for it? Because when we were caught this.
Well, let's
Simply
review,
because we don't have building codes.
right, let's review the fact that we do not have building codes.
We
and
don't for
Do
commercial?
not. The city, the county does not have building codes. The only building codes that exist are specific to floodplain. That is it. Building codes are enforced by the state of Ohio for types of commercial properties.
Really?
Yep. So,
So unfortunately, we don't get into much of these until there's an issue that's brought to us.
So, before he came up, you had the auditor guy come up and you asked him if any money's been donated to preserve these buildings. Has there been any grant requests made by the city we have two wealthy foundations sitting right here in our county, the Ariel Foundation and the Knox Foundation, with money? Have we asked them for any money to to try to do something with this?
yes,
And they've said no?
that is correct.
Okay.
Mel, would you like to speak? Yes, we have brought these up to them as projects they could participate in, and my understanding, unless the mayor knows differently, I've met with them, and it's not a priority at this time.
Yes, my name is Mel Severns. My address is 21 Longitude Drive. I affirm that my testimony is truthful to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God, or under the penalty of perjury. I just want to make one simple statement. I'm on Mount Vernon City Council, and I would only be one vote out of 7 people, but I would not vote on $1 to be put in the rehabilitation of this building. That's just my vote, but I'm telling you that's how I would vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. All right, we will close the public comment period on this case. And we can, if there are questions anyone would like to ask of the folks who have testified, we can bring them back. Someone would like to make a motion, the floor is open for a motion.
I make a motion, we condemn, what's the address? Curtis?
The subject properties.
Parcels.
Property, Curtis building.
How would you,
Do we give a timeline?
would you like to condemn that for demolishment?
Demolition.
I would.
Okay, and
So, help me rephrase, why am I saying it again?
You're making a
I'd like to
motion.
make a motion that we.
you're making a motion to condemn the
Condemn the
properties for
consider-
demolition.
Yep, for full demolition.
And
To happen within what time frame?
your range is 90
90
to
days.
120,
Yeah, 180.
180, 90 to 180.
Is that the city ordinance, Rob?
Generally, it generally thinks, it talks about doing 180 days, and that's what this board has traditionally done.
Yep, anywhere in there.
You read that, what I just said.
Okay, so your motion would be to demolish the subject to condemn the subject properties for demolishment, giving 180 days to start the demolition.
I think we need to shrink that.
I think it should be shorter
I think
too.
we need,
Yeah.
we need,
Say
we need to
90.
shrink that, cause like you said, we're coming up on nice weather, foot
It's a whole
traffic.
summer
It's
season.
if we're gonna, if we're saying that it needs to come down, it needs to come down soon.
So my motion to get a second, you wanna put a motion up there?
Sure, I'll make a motion for recommendation for, demolishment, and I'd say within, I don't know how fast we can get done, I'd say within 60 days.
I'll second.
Full demolition or a start of demolition?
Full demolition, cleaned up. I don't know if it's been inspected by
Is that
me
possible?
afterwards.
Is that possible?
No, because there is one commercial tenant and there's one residential tenant.
But that residential tenant needs to get out soon.
Yeah, he's gonna.
We are
hopefully
working
next-
with both of them.
So with the tenant, if we can get him to go quickly, if not, I can use the Ohio Fire Code and I can condemn it to where he cannot live there. I can make that action to make it faster, as needed.
I think, well, we're between getting the permits and we have, we're looking at the permits and what else are we looking at to do before we can start demolition?
Relocate the tenants.
Yeah.
We're getting, there are, I believe someone's getting quotes for the demolition. And we'll have to go to city council
Yeah.
because it's above $70,000.
So we're probably looking about 90 days.
How about 90?
At 90? Okay. But if it can happen sooner, it can happen sooner, right? We can,
Yep.
we
Yes.
can make it say, 90 days, but if it can,
90
if it
is
can,
limit.
happen sooner,
And they're a commercial tenant in there right now?
Yeah, okay, so hang on, let's
Well,
focus,
right, okay.
yeah, he's got it. Let's focus on the motion. So let me restate the motion, see if we have a second. Okay, the motion is to condemn the properties for demolishment. Or demolishments must start within 90 days, must be completed within 90 days. I'll say completed. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, now we can open this up for discussion. I will open by saying if we say 90 days, that gives time to perhaps hire a specialty contractor to salvage historic items from the fascia of the building before maybe bringing, so we could start demolition by salvaging pieces and components before we bring in the overall rough demolition. And then that gives us time to work through appropriate relocations. If we don't follow the pre-relocations process, it jeopardizes the federal aid for the next construction. So we need to follow those proper procedures. That process has been initiated, and we're working with both the tenants to expedite their relocations. Questions, discussion?
I do like that lady's comment. I think we do need to work with something within the city about some of our other buildings and making sure that we do have some type of inspection in before these buildings do get this far.
Yep.
So, I don't know what that's gonna look like,
What's the
but I
process?
like that idea.
I can address that a little bit because my department's been working on a registry so much for rental properties in town, be them residential or commercial, that would give us the ability to do an on-site inspection, especially if there's concerns or something like that in the future. We've never had anything like that because we don't have the authority. And like we don't have building codes, we do have zoning codes. So there's a little bit of difference between the two. So, but we're planning on trying to roll this out and to be able to make it where we can have a relationship with the property owners and be able to work with them to try to make sure that we don't get to this point again. Because there's no one, I don't want to be up here doing this, to condemn a building. But if I'm going to condemn someone's house or another property, I got to hold the city to the same standards that I'm holding them to. So we are working on a registry to be able to inspect and make recommendations and things like that. So that is in the works.
Thank you.
Good.
I think we need to be mindful of the time of the year. First Fridays are starting, farmers markets, 250th anniversary of this country, and we will have a lot of activity, as we should, to celebrate what's important. So I think if we could get this taken care of before 4th of July, that would be great. Safety.
I agree.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You also have businesses across the street that are trying to make a living.
Yes.
I always have a question. My question is, you guys are, the motion, there's a second saying 90 days. Who on the board is gonna speak up saying, I'm the expert saying it can be done in 90 days? Who's gonna put their name on record saying it can be done in 90 days? What happens if you don't have it done in 90 days? Is there a penalty? So I got two questions.
Well, so there have been inspections done, so there is two of the three buildings contain asbestos. So there was a process to abate that, but the inspections are completed, those reports are published. So some of the work is completed. We have independent independent department heads, so I think Mr. Zimmerman is gonna be he is the accountability officer, because the condemnation, once the condemnation is passed and the order is signed, that is his department to enforce that.
But like, don't the owner of this building, which is the city of Mount Vernon, they get that order, don't they have to go to city council then to vote for to fund this?
Yes.
So yes, the city council would have to provide funding and would have to authorize, we estimate that the demolition will be above the procurement limits,
$79,000.
which is $79,000, so the council will have to take action to allow a contractual agreement of some sort to do the demolition.
So first reading, second reading, third reading, all be done, and the demolition within 90 days. You really think that's what happened?
Yeah, I think so. I know.
It don't take them long once they're on site.
Yeah, it won't take, we believe that the demolition would happen over a weekend. We're gonna
I mean,
we
the-
shut
the
down
issue-
all the state
issues-
routes.
The bigger issues are the asbestos abatement
Yep.
is really the biggest issue.
We would shut down all the roads in both
Yeah.
directions, detour both state routes, and create a safety zone and evacuate.
So now to answer his question, if we do come up with a hiccup that this does need to go longer, does it have to be brought back to the board, or is this something through Mr. Zimmerman, we can just extend that time frame?
If it needs to be, if there is a significant hiccup, we may come back to the board, but, for a week or two, we would not. But if there are significant problems, they will come back to the board so that we be transparent as to what's happening.
Okay. But at least this 90 days is saying that we wanna get this moving. We wanna get this moving, but if we have to revisit, we
Yep.
definitely will. Okay, good.
Did we ever put a penalty when people don't make the deadline?
Well,
We'll come back to the board.
is that if a resident does not go and follow out with the demolition that's been ordered, Mr. Zimmerman here will go and contract with a company out beyond that to do that.
Yes.
I mean, the city itself, if it doesn't do that, we have members of the media here who will be sure to hold our feet to the fire and make sure it does in fact happen.
Yeah, we are actually currently working with a contractor for another condemnation to be performed here in the next near future. So if it's not met, now, this is a little bit odd because it's the city, so, but no, if we need to extend for a short time period, I have the authority to be able to do that, so we'll be fine.
All right. Additional discussion about this particular case.
I don't see it happening in 90 days.
Well, okay, I am ready to call for a vote. Please call the roll.
Brian Ball,
Yes.
Chad Christopher,
Yes.
Katie Delozier,
Yes.
Nathan Overhaul,
Yes.
Russ Menser,
Yes.
Catherine Breckley.
Yes.
We have unanimous vote to condemn the 3 buildings north of 40 Public Square. Is there any additional business or thoughts? I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
All right. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you for your time. Lots of questions. No, that's the maximum, that's the authority we can spend money without council specifically. Did not say, I did not have a quote yet, because they're working on it.
Dumb question. Why don't we have?
What's that?
All right, buddy, have a good one. Take care.
Thanks, ladies.
Oh, it's got to go down.
Yeah.
It's already.
I don't know.
I've seen some old buildings from my experiences at Canyon, and it's just hard.
It's just too far gone, but.
It's hard, but it's in bad shape.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Especially the foundation.
I'm worried about somebody getting.
Well, and the summer is so busy.
Summer, it is.